Club for Growth Action is responsible for the content of this advertising.
7 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Tuesday morning, it's 35 degrees under partly sunny skies to start the new workday.
Local information that makes a difference. Here's your regional weather.
Sunny today, temperatures in the mid-50s, a west-northwest wind at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Wind gusts today, 25 miles per hour. Areas of frost tonight, lows in the mid-30s. Early frost again Wednesday, otherwise sunny with a high of 60. Cloudy Wednesday night, lows near 40 degrees. A 30% chance of afternoon rain on Thursday. Cloudy otherwise with a high near 60 degrees. Southeast winds on Thursday at 15 to 25 miles per hour. A 40% chance of a shower Friday night. Friday, I should say, rather. Cloudy otherwise. Temperatures in the lower to mid-60s. As we start this Tuesday morning, it's partly cloudy across the area. Right now in Bloomington, temperatures at 33 degrees. It's 34 in Hayworth and Leroy, 34 in Farmer City, 35 in Champaign and Monticello, 36 this morning in Decatur, 36 in Lincoln, 35 in Springfield, and it's 34 in Peoria. 35 degrees under partly cloudy skies in Clinton. Feels like 31 outside. Northwest winds are calm. 78% humidity and 10 miles of visibility here this morning. Get the latest in local weather at DeWittDailyNews.com.
From regional radio, DeWittDailyNews.com and the WHOW app. This is local information making a difference.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. News time is 9 minutes after 7 o'clock. Coverage of news is brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and the WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Pockets of Illinois might just have enough time to get some planting in this week. Ed Shimon at the National Weather Service in Lincoln on the WHOW Morning Show Monday told regional radio after nearly an inch of rain fell in parts of central Illinois Sunday, there might just be enough dry weather this week for some planting to take place.
Yeah, this weekend is going to be some heavy rain too. So, coming up Friday night, Saturday, and that's not going to be good either. The middle part of the week looks pretty dry. So a good 3 to 4 days here of drying, at least the surface layers, and maybe, that'll help out before that next rainfall comes plowing through here. But it's going to be a little dicey. I think there's going to be some soggy areas of a lot of the farmer fields out there. So They got to be, dodging around some low spots, I'm sure, when they're trying to get their planting done.
Monday night saw a freeze warning, and there's another freeze warning forecasted tonight, but Shimon says that should be the last of the freezes for the season.
Yeah, we actually have a freeze warning out there for tonight. Temps are going to drop, at or below freezing all across, the DeWitt County area and north, points north. So, a few low spots may even creep into the upper 20s, but that should generally be further north, not as much in the Clinton area, but freezing temperatures tonight, and then some frosty conditions even on Tuesday night as we, only get down to about 35 degrees, but looking for clear skies. So frost can form pretty easily in those conditions. So, but yeah, as you mentioned, a warming trend Thursday, up in the low 60s, and finally by Saturday, we'll be back in the upper 60s Saturday and Sunday. But unfortunately, that's going to bring more rain. Friday night, Saturday look wet with some storms with that cold front coming through.
Shimon indicates things will remain cooler than average and rainfall will be above average. More specifically, temperatures will remain cooler for the first part of May. We'll have more on that later this week on Regional Radio. A Piatt County mental health professional says masking is becoming a big barrier to people getting the help they need. Tony Kirkman is the executive director of the Piatt County Mental Health Center and indicates because his services fall under the umbrella of a medical facility, they are required to wear masks.
Sadly, masking has been here for quite some time. I know the governor's orders have lifted mask usage in many of the indoor locations. And then as we're reading on the news right now, we're seeing that CDC has changed the requirements. And so TSA has now removed those mandates for planes, trains, and buses. But sadly, IDPH continues to look at facilities like ours that are deemed in this definition as a congregate setting and has said that mask usage should be required. The nice part about it is that there's been a recent release of a news bulletin, according to the Division of Developmental Disabilities, and our administration's looking at it, that some of the language has slid to required to highly recommend. And so it's kind of like having an attorney look over your language to say, hey, so it says should, it doesn't say must. And so the biggest thing that we're trying to do is make a decision, one that's obviously falls within the parameters of our funders, but more important than that is making sure that we're taking every step in the way to protecting our consumers, our visitors, and our staff's well-being. So as of right now, we're continue of mask usage for our developmental service side. And then the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, they just call it CMS, has declared community mental health centers as a healthcare clinic. And by that definition, it says that healthcare clinics must maintain mask usage. It's kind of where we're at right now.
Part of the barriers of the masks in counseling settings is the nonverbal communication cues. Kirkman says when 75% of communication is nonverbal, masks provide quite the barrier to helping individuals.
I think it's all over the board is that no matter what we do, you're going to have people that just say, as long as coronavirus is present, we should stay masked up. Then you're going to have another, as the pendulum swings, another line of thought. But I'll tell you, in real lifetime of what we're seeing is, yes, we know that 75% of communication is nonverbal. So when you cover 2/3 of our faces, which are extremely expressive, it makes it very, very difficult for the clinicians to be able to see slight inflections. Maybe, somebody, biting their bottom lip could show anxiety or tension or something like that. As well as, I think, for the patient that is receiving mental health services, as they're sharing difficult or maybe even joyful news, it becomes quite difficult. And so I think that becomes a limit to the services, and not throwing it away entirely, but it makes it more difficult for both the sender and the receiver.
Kirkman explains if they wanted to unmask staff and patients, there would be severe financial consequences to go against the guidance. He says the risks in doing that do not outweigh the rewards.
Well, I think of the fact of, as it stands right now, the last ruling I saw was that every infraction, which is each individual, can be fined $14,000 per incident per day. It doesn't take very long if I have 45 staff and I tell them peel off your mask, and we serve 65 individuals with disabilities, and roughly we're seeing around 40 individuals on our mental health side every single day. That price tag gets pretty wide. At any time, we can have an audit where the Department of Public Health, the Bureau of Accreditation, Licensing and Certification, or Bureau of Quality Management, they will not, and they have not given notice, and they can just walk in and with a clipboard and say, show me everything, and they'll just start hitting us with tags.
I see.
One of the lines of thoughts was, well, you shouldn't let government tell you what to do, and you should fight for your rights. But we also have to think of the long game here. And if we receive all of those tags and all of those fines, ultimately what that does is shut us down, thus leading to a reduction of services, essential services for our community.
To make people get the help help people get the help they need in a setting where perhaps masks can be optional or everyone in the situation feels safe, Kirkman says technology has helped them continue to connect with clients, but they also have counselors meeting with clients in a safe place out in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a lot of cool things that we can do. So one of the alternatives is telemedicine. So we can say, hey, in the future, if you want to do something over a secured line through a Zoom HIPAA compliant portal, we can do that. If you want to pick up the phone, we can do that. We also have the capability, and I'm not for sure if we use it in this case or not, but we have the capability of saying, why don't you check in with our receptionist? We'll hand you an iPad and you go sit in your car and you can do the session right there with a therapist. And again, I know that our therapists are really, really client-centered. So we can even just say, let's go on a walk here on our grounds and just kind of talk things through. As long as it's obviously the counselor and the counselee agree, and we can ensure that there is some privacy and some confidentiality. Yeah, we've been able to do that as well. We've had people that have experienced grief or trauma, and as part of that, which is called exposure therapy. We've went to those sites and kind of done some stress reduction stuff. Yeah, it's that's why we're called a community mental health center, is because we respond to community needs.
According to Kirkman, masks are increasing barriers to treatment and are not helping reduce stigmas and increase access. He says mental health facilities need to be a different delineation of classification away from a healthcare facility because of the one-on-one nature of their settings. It's 17 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Tuesday morning. Under partly sunny skies to start the day, 35 degrees. It feels like 31 outside. Coverage of news brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and the WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. More to come on the Morning Show.
New trucks and SUVs are coming here at Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton. This is Scott Baum. Yes, we have new inventory arriving, and you can see what will arrive right on our website. Just click on the pre-order and reserve tab. From there, you will find vehicles in transit and vehicles in production. Or just call our sales staff and we'll help. Find Silverados, Equinoxes, Blazers, including Tahoes and Suburbans, as well as our complete Buick line of SUVs. BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
It is 18 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Tuesday. Again, I'm Seth Lawrence with you folks today for this expanded local newscast. Corn and soybean planting is starting up in Illinois. On average, less than 2 days were suitable for field work this past week. Still, some minor progress was made, says crop statistician Mark Schleusner.
Corn planting was reported as 2% finished compared to 21% 1 year ago, and also 21% for the 5-year average. Soybean planting reached 1% complete compared to 16% last year and 8% normally.
5% of winter wheat has headed. 40% of the crop is rated in good to excellent condition.
5% of winter wheat acres are now heading compared to 17% last year and 12% normally. The condition of the wheat crop in Illinois was rated 1% very poor, 5% poor, 54% fair, 33% good, and 7% excellent.
Pasture conditions improved to 53% in good to excellent condition. Average statewide topsoil moisture came in at 2% short, 49% adequate, and 49% surplus. Cases of COVID in Illinois increased by 39% this past week. State public health officials report more than 19,000 new infections. That does not include those who only tested positive with an at-home kit, but there is some good news, says Governor J.B. Pritzker.
We've seen something interesting so far with this new Omicron subvariant, and that is that even with a rise in cases and including those, we're not seeing a rise in hospitalizations. It's very small upticks and even downticks all across the state, but on balance, we're not seeing a significant rise or really any rise right now.
Governor Pritzker says they are keeping an eye on the situation and will announce precautions if appropriate.
So I will not hesitate to let the public know that it's time to mask up, or that it's, that we need to do more to get people vaccinated, or where they can get therapeutics if they don't know already. But we're being very careful to monitor those things and also speak to the public whenever it's necessary.
Most of the state remains at low risk for transmission, although 4 counties, DuPage, Champaign, McLean, and Piatt, are considered at medium risk. It's advised the elderly and immunocompromised wear a mask in indoor public settings in those areas. HBT Financial Incorporated Monday reported first quarter net incomes of $13.6 million. The bank based in Bloomington says it had earnings of 47 cents per share. Earnings adjusted for non-recurring gains were 42 cents per share. The results topped Wall Street expectations. The average estimates of 4 analysts surveyed by Zacks Investment Research was for earnings of 41 cents per share. The bank holding company posted revenue of $43.4 million in the period. Its revenue net of interest expense was $42 million, also topping street forecasts. 3 analysts surveyed by Zacks expected $40.8 million. The Illinois Department of Natural Resources is recommending you stop using bird feeders and bird baths for now. The goal is to prevent the spread of the highly infectious avian flu, says DNR's Chris Jakes.
In the interest of being very cautious, we made a recommendation that bird feeders be suspended for a length of time, about a month or so, just to minimize the likelihood that any birds that eat seeds or grains not come in contact with each other.
He suggests,
stop feeding them and stop filling these bird feeders, and also clean them out with a solution of bleach and water. Make sure that they're clean, and make sure that any bird seed at the base of them is cleaned up.
The recommendation applies to grain and seed bird feeders and lasts through the end of May. DNR says wild birds will have plenty of natural sources of food in the meantime. A new state law is designed to further protect Illinois students from sexual abuse at school. Under the law, school administration must let school boards and parents know if a teacher is found to have engaged in sexual misconduct with a student. It also ensures teachers who are caught have the incident recorded in their personnel file so they can't easily move to another district, says Representative Michelle Mussman of Schaumburg.
It is an open secret that when information cannot be stored or shared, it makes it easier for predatory actors to move between schools, hiding and perfecting their techniques and potentially endangering students.
The goal, again, is to ensure teachers who have groomed and established a sexual relationship with a student cannot switch to a new district when they get caught, says Senator John Connor of Lockport.
As a prosecutor, I encountered child exploitation situations involving educators in which teachers just went from school to school after something occurred. This bill is going to address that problem and allow those individuals to be tracked.
The law takes effect next summer. Governor J.B. Pritzker has signed a new law to help address the shortage of substitute teachers in Illinois. The idea is to get more retired teachers back into the classroom to help out, says Representative Janet Yang Rohr of Naperville.
Currently, retired teachers are allowed to come back into the classroom to substitute teach for 120 days each school year. This bill allows them an additional 20 days for the rest of this school year through the end of this June. We worked with school management and administration groups, labor, and TRS to carefully craft this bill so that it would not trip any tax concerns. And I ask for your support to help bring back some of our most experienced educators into the classroom to help relieve the shortage of substitute teachers.
The law takes effect immediately. Wondering about the status or timeline of that local highway project? There's an online resource, says Paul Wappel with the Illinois Department of Transportation.
Yes, you can go to i.illinois.gov. The website, it has all the work zones. You can find out what construction is going on where, what roads are blocked or partially blocked or lanes have changed. We're constantly updating that information, so it is a great resource to find out about the construction projects that are ongoing throughout almost all parts of the state. i.idot.illinois.gov.
Wappel says the idot.illinois.gov website has the travel information in the drop-down menu. How many big mistakes can a first-time tomato grower make? One expert says a lot. Gary Crawford has the story.
Well, as gardening season's beginning, let's pull out this timeless 1983 hit song from Guy Clark.
Homegrown tomatoes, homegrown tomatoes. What'd life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love
And homegrown tomatoes are true. And if the sales figures from this nation's garden stores and online garden retailers are correct, this spring, many of us are going to be starting a garden for the first time ever and trying our hands at homegrown tomatoes.
Tomatoes, they're not that difficult to grow once you just give them some basic requirements or basic needs.
That's what they all say. That's Kansas State University Extension gardening expert Dennis Patton. So basic needs, huh? Well, we'll get to those in a moment. First, Dennis, what's the biggest mistake that people make when trying to grow tomatoes?
The biggest mistake people make is planting them too early when the soils are still too cold and there's a chance of a frost. And then the plant just sits there and it kind of gets stunted. And then it's kind of hard to wake up and get going. So I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. So here in the Kansas City area, we don't recommend planting tomatoes till May 1st or even Mother's Day. And that's when our soils have warmed up enough so they're going to get off and growing. We're going to have those nice sunny days to provide good growth.
So your time to plant will depend on where in the country you are. Best way to find that out is to check with your state's extension service. They've got experts like Dennis to help you out. Dennis, he mentioned providing our tomatoes with their basic needs. One of those needs is at least 6 hours a day of direct sun.
And I think the other limiting factor I hear with a lot of people in tomatoes is that need for sun, that 6+ hours of sun a day. And a lot of neighborhoods that have mature trees or people that live in ever increasing, condominium, townhomes, apartments sometimes struggle to find that sunlight.
So your tomatoes may not do so well without that 6 to 8 hours a day of sunlight.
So definitely check the sun. Second is they're going to need good drainage. So we try to avoid spots that tend to hold water, stay wet for a longer period after rain. And then we also like to have those vegetable gardens somewhat near to a water source, because in most parts of our country, we're going to have to do some supplemental watering during the summer months.
And that brings up the third mistake many of us make with our
homegrown tomatoes.
And that is overwatering in combination with having the plants in soils or pots that don't drain well. Most experts say only water when the soil feels dry below the 1-inch level. But watering advice varies depending on where you live, what variety you're trying to grow, what kind of soil you're using. But for best results, Dennis Patton again says check with your local ag extension service. They've got the information to help you with those homegrown tomatoes. This is Gary Crawford reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
It is 29 minutes after the hour here on this Tuesday morning. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Coverage of news brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters.